There is a silence that lives at the top of every mountain, a silence so pure it feels like eternity breathing. In that silence, Capricorn is born, not as a symbol of ambition or success, but as the spirit of endurance itself, the soul that remembers what it means to climb toward the divine when the world below forgets. Capricorn's story is not a tale of external conquest, but of internal ascension, a sacred pilgrimage from density to light, from chaos to structure, from mortality to mastery. Every myth begins in the valley. For Capricorn, that valley is the human condition, the struggle between spirit and matter, purpose and fear, time and eternity. The ancients saw this archetype not as a goat, but as the goatfish, the creature that dwells in both sea and mountain. It was the bridge between worlds, between the emotional depths of the unconscious and the unyielding peaks of divine law. To understand Capricorn is to remember the alchemy of form, how spirit learns to take shape, how discipline becomes devotion, and how time becomes the teacher of immortality. Saturn, the great ruler of Capricorn, has long been feared as the god of limitation, the stern master of karma, responsibility, and time. But those who walk the inner path knew Saturn's secret face. He was never a punisher. He was the architect of wisdom. Through every delay, every loss, every mountain too high to climb, Saturn was initiating the soul into mastery. His lessons are written not in gold, but in stone lessons of patience, integrity, and truth that outlast empires. Capricorn does not run from difficulty. It turns every trial into structure, every shadow into discipline, every scar into sacred geometry. In ancient temples, initiates were tested through silence and endurance. Before they were ever trusted with knowledge, they had to prove they could hold the weight of truth without collapsing. This is the essence of Capricorn energy, not loud revelation, but quiet resilience. The true initiate does not boast of mastery. They live it brick by invisible brick as the unseen builder of the soul's cathedral. When others seek freedom through escape, Capricorn seeks freedom through responsibility. When others crave light, Capricorn learns to become the lamp. But there is more hidden behind the stone walls of this archetype. Beneath Capricorn's armor of stoicism lies profound tenderness, the compassion of the one who has suffered and yet still chooses to lead. For every Capricorn soul carries the ancient memory of being the keeper of civilization, the one who holds the structure together when others fall apart. This duty can feel heavy, lonely, even cruel. Yet through it, the soul learns its final lesson, that the highest form of mastery is service. The mountain climber becomes the mountain itself, offering stability for those still learning to rise. As the world shifts toward the age of Aquarius, Capricorn stands at the threshold, the old guardian of structure, facing the dawn of freedom. The challenge now is not to destroy the old, but to refine it, to turn rigid systems into living temples, and to replace control with conscious creation. The Capricorn of this new era is not the CEO or the ruler, but the inner master, the one who governs their thoughts, emotions, and destiny from within. And perhaps that is why the journey of Capricorn always begins with solitude. Every step upward strips away another illusion, the illusion of control, of success, of permanence. until what remains is the eternal observer, the soul standing at the peak, seeing both heaven and earth as one. The climb was never about reaching the top. It was about remembering that the summit has always been inside you. In this journey, we will follow Capricorn's full story, from its ancient origins to its hidden feminine wisdom, from its karmic burdens to its ultimate transcendence. You will see how every fall, every hardship, every moment of silence has been shaping you into the architect of your own destiny. For in the end, Capricorn's truth is not that it conquers the world, but that it builds eternity within it. Long before the zodiac became a tool for personality and prediction, it was a sacred map of consciousness. Each sign was an initiation, a test through which the soul evolved toward unity. And Capricorn, the 12th gate of the earthly journey, was revered as one of the most mysterious. Its story began not in Greece or Rome, but in far older lands, the cradle of civilization itself. In ancient Sumer, Capricorn appeared as the god Enki, the goldfish master of the deep waters and architect of creation. Enki was not a god of war or thunder, but of wisdom, a divine engineer who built order from chaos. The fish tail symbolized the primordial ocean from which life emerged, while the goat's head and horns represented the ascent toward divine understanding. Capricorn, therefore, was the living bridge between the unconscious depths and the awakened mind, between emotion and structure, spirit and matter. The Egyptians knew this archetype under another name, Khnum, the ram-headed god, who molded humanity on his potter's wheel. Like Enki, Khnum was the craftsman of souls, the one who shaped human destiny with patience and precision. In both myths, the same message was preserved: the path to mastery is the path of creation itself. Capricorn does not destroy or escape the world. It perfects it one form at a time. Even in Greek tradition, where Capricorn became the image of Pan, transforming into a sea-goat to escape the monster Typhon, the symbol carried a hidden teaching. The descent into the sea was not fear, it was remembrance. The god who fled into the water was returning to the source. Capricorn's power lies in this paradox: to rise higher, one must first descend deeper. True mastery is born from knowing the limits of both worlds. Throughout ancient temples, this dual symbol, half goat, half fish, was carved into stone beside the serpent and the sun disk. The initiates knew it as the seal of the builders, those who could balance heaven's geometry with earth's clay. Capricorn souls carried the vibration of the ancient architects, those who built pyramids, temples, and later societies. But while the world remembers their monuments, it forgets the inner science behind them. Each stone mirrored the human soul, learning to embody divine law. To remember Capricorn's origin is to remember your own divine architecture. You were not made to live at the mercy of chaos or emotion. You were designed to shape reality through discipline, patience, and truth. The goldfish within you still remembers the first climb, from the waters of the unconscious to the summit of awareness. That climb never ends, for every mountain conquered only reveals a higher one. The ancients whispered that when the sea-goat finally reaches the top, the ocean rises with it, for enlightenment is never personal. It lifts the whole of creation. If Capricorn is the builder of worlds, then Saturn is the architect who hands it the tools. Saturn, the planet of time, discipline, and limitation, has been misunderstood for centuries. Many fear him as the bringer of hardship, the slow weight of fate pressing down upon mortal shoulders. Yet, to the ancient initiates, Saturn was the sacred gatekeeper of wisdom. He was not cruel. He was precise. He taught the soul that only through boundaries can power be refined, and only through time can truth take form. Saturn's lessons are not given in comfort, but in endurance. He strips away illusions, distractions, and false promises until only what is real remains. Under his gaze, everything unsteady collapses, not to punish, but to rebuild upon rock instead of sand. To walk the Capricorn path is to apprentice under Saturn himself, learning the delicate balance between control and surrender. Every challenge becomes a chisel in the sculptor's hand, carving strength into the structure of the soul. In ancient myth, Saturn was known as Kronos, the devourer of his own children, time consuming all things. But the esoteric truth hidden beneath this terrifying image is liberation, not doom. For what Saturn devours are the illusions of permanence. He reminds us that everything, material, wealth, youth, status, even the body, must return to dust. And yet, what survives beyond time is what Capricorn builds in spirit, wisdom, integrity, legacy. The true initiate learns to honor time, not as an enemy, but as a mentor who shapes destiny. Every soul that carries the Capricorn frequency has felt Saturn's presence, the slow unfolding of progress, the delays that seem endless, the responsibilities that others flee from. But hidden within those burdens is sacred design. The weight you carry is the gravity that keeps you grounded when the world is lost in distraction. The patience you cultivate is the same patience with which the stars themselves move through eternity. Saturn's path is never easy, yet it is the only path that leads to mastery. In astrology, Saturn's exaltation in Libra and rulership in Capricorn reflect an ancient truth balanced through structure. Without discipline, freedom collapses into chaos. Without time, creation has no rhythm. Saturn teaches that order is not confinement. It is alignment with the cosmic law. He trains the soul to become its own authority, no longer ruled by impulse, emotion, or external validation, but by inner law. So, when you meet limitation, remember, it is not your enemy. It is your initiation. Every delay conceals a deeper alignment. Every closed door is Saturn asking, have you truly built the foundation strong enough to last eternity? Capricorn answers not with complaint, but with work. Patient, devoted, silent work. And one day when the summit is reached, Saturn no longer appears as the warden of fate, but as the master who has quietly handed you the keys to eternity. There is a reason Capricorn is often depicted carrying the world upon its back. It is not simply the image of ambition or leadership. It is the memory of responsibility. The Capricorn soul is born with a deep awareness that life is not random. Everything carries consequence. Every action echoes through time. To be Capricorn is to feel the invisible architecture of cause and effect, pulsing through existence, to know instinctively that structure must be upheld or everything will collapse. From childhood, Capricorn often feels older than its years, a guardian in a world of wanderers. It carries the ancestral weight of generations, that came before the karmic memory of civilizations built and lost. This responsibility is not forced upon it by others. It is embedded in its very nature. Capricorn represents the soul that agreed to hold the structure together, to be the pillar when others tremble, the foundation when others forget. But even pillars crack under the pressure of centuries. This is Capricorn's first great trial, learning that duty must never replace divinity. Many born under this archetype mistake control for care and perfection for purpose. They believe that if they work harder, hold tighter, and bear more weight, the world will stay in order. But the more they cling to structure, the further they drift from spirit. True mastery does not mean holding everything together. It means knowing what to hold and what to let crumble. The ancients saw this lesson in the myth of Atlas, the Titan condemned to hold up the heavens. For ages he carried the cosmic sphere alone, believing that surrender was failure. But the hidden key within the myth is not punishment, it is transformation. Atlas's endurance becomes divine because he learns to merge with what he carries. He no longer resists the heavens. He becomes one with their rhythm. This is Capricorn's sacred art, turning burden into balance and labor into grace. On a psychological level, this archetype often manifests as the achiever, the organizer, the one everyone depends on. Yet beneath that competence lies a hidden vulnerability, the fear of collapse, the terror of being seen as weak. Capricorn's heart is tender, though it hides behind composure. And it is through acknowledging that tenderness, not suppressing it, that true strength emerges. The master learns that responsibility is not about control, but stewardship, caring for what is sacred without being consumed by it. Every Capricorn soul must at some point set down the invisible weight it carries, not to abandon the world, but to remember that it was never meant to hold it alone. The mountain remains steady, not because it resists the wind, but because it is rooted deep within the earth. So too does Capricorn learn that its real power lies not in endurance alone, but in connection, the realization that the entire mountain climbs with you. Every soul has its mountain. For Capricorn, that mountain is not made of rock and snow, but of time, effort, and awakening. It is the slow, sacred climb that defines existence, the movement from ignorance to knowledge, from instinct to wisdom, from survival to mastery. The ancients called this journey the initiation of the mountain, a rite that every seeker of light must face when they are ready to leave behind the valleys of comfort and illusion. The mountain tests every part of you. Its paths are narrow, its storms merciless, and its air grows thinner with every step. Yet Capricorn continues, not because it is fearless, but because it remembers something others have forgotten, that the summit is not a destination, but a mirror. Every step upward reveals more of the self stripped bare of pretense. The climb is not against the world, but against one's own resistance to growth. In the mystery schools of Egypt, Greece, and Tibet, the mountain was a living symbol of the soul's ascension. Disciples were told that before one could touch heaven, one must first master the earth. That meant discipline, devotion, humility, and silence, virtues that Saturn patiently engraves into the Capricorn soul. Those who failed these tests were not punished. They were simply unready. But those who endured learned that the true summit is not reached by ambition, but by surrender. Every hardship Capricorn faces, rejection, loss, isolation, exhaustion, is part of the same divine initiation. The mountain demands that you shed everything that cannot ascend with you: pride, fear, attachment, and false identity. You cannot carry your ego to the peak, because the air of the divine is too thin for it to breathe. So the climb becomes a purification, not through ritual, but through life itself. Yet even in struggle, there is beauty. When the storms rage and the path disappears beneath the snow, Capricorn learns to listen to the wind, to the silence, to the quiet voice within that says, "Keep going." That voice is the soul's compass guiding the climber when sight fails. It is in these moments of darkness that Capricorn's light is born, not as a flame, but as an unbreakable knowing that every test is sacred and every step matters. When the initiate finally reaches the summit, there are no trumpets, no gods waiting in the clouds, only stillness. But in that stillness lies revelation, the understanding that the mountain was never separate from the self. The climb was the teacher, the storms were the purification, and the summit was the awakening. Capricorn's secret is that it never truly climbs alone. It ascends as a reflection of the divine, seeking to know itself through human form. To climb the mountain of initiation is to remember that your trials were never meant to break you. They were designed to build the temple of your soul. To understand Capricorn, one must understand time, not as seconds ticking on a clock, but as a living intelligence. Time is Saturn's greatest creation and Capricorn's greatest initiation. While others chase pleasure or escape the present, Capricorn learns to walk with time as an ally, not an enemy. It knows that every moment, every delay, every cycle is part of a larger divine geometry. In that geometry, nothing is wasted and nothing is accidental. The ancients personified time as Kronos the devourer because they feared its power. But the initiates of the mystery school saw another truth, that time was not the destroyer, but the sculptor. Every limitation, every repetition, every slow unfolding is time's way of shaping the soul into something eternal. What you endure is not punishment, it is precision. Saturn's clock does not run fast because wisdom cannot be rushed. Capricorn's relationship with time is unlike any other. It senses the invisible structure beneath events, the perfect alignment that reveals itself only after years of perseverance. Where others see delay, Capricorn sees incubation. Where others feel failure, Capricorn feels preparation. This is the essence of divine timing, the understanding that everything unfolds not when you want, but when you are ready. The Capricorn soul often feels behind in youth, burdened by responsibilities, waiting for recognition that seems endlessly postponed. Yet later, when maturity and mastery align everything that once felt denied, arrives effortlessly. Saturn never withholds. He simply waits until the foundation can hold the weight of destiny. The esoteric law of Capricorn is this: time bends for those who align with it. Those who resist its rhythm age in spirit. Those who flow with it become timeless. That is why ancient adepts revered Saturn's rings, not as prisons, but as sacred circles marking cycles of mastery. To complete one Saturn cycle roughly every 29 years was to graduate through a layer of karma, to move from student to teacher, from builder to master. Each return was both an ending and a beginning, the spiral of time turning ever upward. In this light, Capricorn's endurance is not stubbornness, but wisdom. It knows that true growth does not come from speed, but from depth. Like the roots of a tree that dig downward before the branches rise, Capricorn builds invisibly before it blossoms visibly. This slow rhythm is sacred. It teaches patience in a culture obsessed with immediacy, integrity in a world addicted to shortcuts, and perseverance in an age that worships ease. The soul that learns Saturn's rhythm no longer fears time, it commands it. It no longer chases destiny, it magnetizes it through consistency. Time becomes the temple, and the Capricorn soul becomes its high priest, tending to every cycle with devotion. For the ultimate secret of Saturn is not mortality, it is immortality through alignment. When you live in harmony with time, you are no longer ruled by it. You become its master. Beneath Capricorn's stone exterior lies something rarely spoken of: the sacred feminine, hidden beneath the armor of discipline. For all its reputation as cold, distant, and calculating, Capricorn carries a secret tenderness that only awakens once the soul has learned endurance. This is the paradox of the goatfish. It is born in the water, the realm of emotion, intuition, and life's hidden currents. Before it learned to climb, it learned to feel. The feminine side of Capricorn is the priestess, concealed within the master, the intuitive current that balances the logic of Saturn with the compassion of the sea. In ancient myths, the goatfish was not a beast of conquest, but a guardian of life's cycles. Its tail symbolized the primordial womb, the great ocean from which creation emerges. The climb up the mountain was never meant to abandon those waters, but to bring their wisdom into form. Capricorn's true mastery lies in building without losing empathy, in leading without severing the heart. This hidden feminine has long been misunderstood. Patriarchal traditions turned Capricorn into the image of the stern father, the unyielding ruler. But in its original essence, this sign held the mystery of the sacred mother who endures not through dominance, but through care. She is the midwife of civilizations, the quiet hand that holds the structure together, the keeper of continuity when chaos reigns. Her power is subtle, but it is absolute. Without her, the mountain crumbles. Psychologically, this manifests as Capricorn's deep sense of duty and devotion, but also its hidden exhaustion. Those who embody this energy often take care of everyone else, holding emotional stability for others while neglecting their own. Yet the feminine wisdom of Capricorn whispers that strength without softness becomes stone. The balance must be restored. True leadership is not to carry the world, but to nurture it with presence. The integration of Capricorn's feminine side is one of the most profound initiations of the soul's journey. It transforms ambition into service, authority into compassion, and control into trust. It allows Capricorn to feel again, not as weakness, but as power in its highest vibration. When the sea and the mountain merge, the soul no longer divides the world into work and rest, mind and heart, structure and flow. It becomes the alchemist of both. In the ancient mystery temples, initiates of Capricorn were taught to listen to the pulse of the stone, the quiet rhythm of life, beating even within the hardest forms. This was the divine feminine presence, the eternal flow beneath the surface of creation. To awaken this within oneself is to discover the real secret of Capricorn, that endurance without love is imprisonment, but love expressed through endurance becomes immortality. The mountain may be silent, but beneath its stillness runs the ocean of the Divine Mother Patient, infinite and alive. Every archetype evolves with time, and Capricorn now stands at a threshold unlike any in history. The age of Aquarius dawns a collective awakening that dissolves boundaries, traditions, and hierarchies once held sacred. For Capricorn, the guardian of order, this shift feels like the earth trembling beneath its feet. The old mountains are eroding, the structures once believed eternal are dissolving. But this is not destruction, it is renewal. The Capricorn soul is being asked to rebuild not from fear, but from freedom. For thousands of years, Capricorn served as the architect of civilization, the builder of empires, laws, and institutions that gave form to human progress. Yet as the Aquarian current rises, humanity begins to remember that true authority does not descend from above, it awakens from within. The Capricorn archetype must now surrender its crown of control and don the mantle of wisdom. It must learn to guide without governing, to inspire without imposing, to structure the formless without suffocating it. Astrologically, the transition from Saturn's rule to Uranus's revolution mirrors this evolution. Saturn's energy shaped the old world, one of hierarchy, duty, and order. Uranus, Aquarius's ruler, brings lightning, innovation, equality, and rebellion. The two must now find harmony. Capricorn's mastery of form must meet Aquarius's genius of flow. The mountain must learn to conduct lightning without being shattered by it. Spiritually, this era calls Capricorn to embody a new form of leadership, one rooted in integrity, not authority. The modern elder, not the ruler. The mentor, not the monarch. Where once the Capricorn soul built temples of stone, it now builds temples of consciousness, structures of thought, systems of healing, networks of wisdom that elevate collective awareness. Its power is no longer measured in monuments, but in the stability it brings to chaos. This is the paradoxical gift of Capricorn in the Aquarian age: to create structure spacious enough for freedom, and freedom disciplined enough for structure. The soul must unlearn the belief that control ensures safety and embrace the truth that adaptability ensures survival. What once felt like a collapse of order is in truth the unveiling of a higher order, one that breathes, evolves, and self-corrects through awareness. Those who embody Capricorn's essence in this new era are the bridge builders of humanity's transition. They stand with one foot in the past and one in the future, grounding lightning into form. They remember that the mountain does not vanish in the storm. It becomes the lightning rod through which heaven meets earth. The age of Aquarius does not end Capricorn's reign. It purifies it. It transforms the ruler into the wise elder, the builder into the visionary, the climber into the guide. For when structure and freedom unite, the divine blueprint of evolution finally reveals itself, a mountain made not of stone but of light. Every archetype has a shadow, and Capricorn's is one of the most misunderstood, a subtle illusion that masquerades as strength. The shadow of Capricorn is the relentless drive for control, achievement, and validation. It is the belief that worth must be earned through sacrifice, that love must be proven through labor, and that rest is weakness. Beneath the perfection and power lies a fear older than time itself, the fear of collapse, of chaos, of being nothing without accomplishment. This shadow is born when the sacred principle of structure becomes distorted into rigidity. Saturn's wisdom to build what lasts turns into the ego's obsession with permanence. Capricorn begins to measure itself not by essence, but by output. The mountain that once symbolized ascension becomes a prison wall of expectations. The builder forgets that the temple was meant to serve the divine, not to imprison it. Throughout history, this distortion has taken many forms. Empires, corporations, and even religions, built under Capricorn's influence, often began as noble visions of order and harmony, only to harden into systems of control. What was once meant to elevate humanity became an idol to power. The same pattern repeats within the individual. The desire to master life transforms into the fear of losing control over it. In the language of psychology, Capricorn's shadow is the inner tyrant, the voice that demands perfection, that punishes mistakes, that withholds rest until worthiness is earned. But this tyrant is not the enemy. It is the frightened child who once believed love depended on achievement. Its cruelty is a defense mechanism, an attempt to prevent failure, rejection, or humiliation. Healing Capricorn's shadow therefore requires compassion, not rebellion. The master must learn to forgive the apprentice. The alchemy begins when Capricorn turns its gaze inward and asks, "Who am I without my structures?" The answer is terrifying and liberating. The moment it stops building for validation, it begins building for truth. The illusion of control dissolves, and in its place arises sacred responsibility, not to achieve, but to align. The true authority of Capricorn is not dominance, but stability born of self-mastery. Spiritually, this is the descent before the final ascent. The egoic mountain must crumble before the eternal one can rise. When Capricorn surrenders the need to be seen as strong, it discovers the indestructible strength of presence. When it releases the obsession with outcome, it experiences the peace of alignment. And when it stops trying to rule time, it becomes timeless. In this surrender, Capricorn rediscovers its original purpose, not to dominate the material world, but to sanctify it. The shadow is not to be conquered. It is to be integrated, for only through darkness does light become visible. The illusion of control fades, revealing the truth. Saturn, always intended to teach mastery, is not control over life. It is harmony with it. There comes a moment on the Capricorn path when the outer climb ends and the inner ascent begins. After years of building, striving, and perfecting something, shifts the realization that true mastery cannot be achieved through effort alone. It must be transmuted from within. The Capricorn soul begins the work of inner alchemy, transforming fear into wisdom, pressure into purpose, and ambition into spiritual strength. In ancient Hermetic teachings, the mountain of Capricorn was said to contain secret chambers, inner sanctums, accessible only to those who had conquered their own shadow. These chambers were not physical, but symbolic, representing layers of consciousness, refined through experience. Each chamber demanded a new kind of sacrifice, not the loss of worldly possessions, but the surrender of illusion. To ascend from one to the next, the initiate had to dissolve attachments to identity, ego, and control. Only then could the lead of limitation be turned into the gold of awareness. Capricorn's gift lies in this precise process, the slow, deliberate alchemy of soul refinement. It learns to see obstacles as teachers and time as a crucible. Every hardship becomes material for transformation. Every disappointment is reinterpreted as divine correction. The Capricorn adept does not seek to escape suffering. They use it. They understand that pressure creates diamonds, and the soul too is shaped by tension into brilliance. In this inner laboratory, Saturn's strictness becomes compassion. The once harsh lessons of delay and responsibility reveal themselves as instruments of purification. What seemed like punishment was always preparation. The Capricorn soul begins to realize that its endurance was never meant to prove strength to the world. It was meant to awaken strength within. Psychologically, this process often manifests as detachment from external success. The ambitions that once defined Capricorn start to dissolve, leaving a quiet but profound sense of peace. The drive to climb turns into the desire to serve. The outer authority transforms into inner sovereignty. The soul no longer asks, "What can I achieve?" but rather, "What can I embody?" This transformation is the essence of mastery, to embody what you once sought to become the living expression of the truth you pursued. The mountain, once external, becomes internal, a steady center that no storm can move. In that stillness, the Capricorn soul becomes a channel for divine order, anchoring the higher vibrations of spirit into the physical realm. In esoteric tradition, this is called the crystallization of light, when wisdom becomes form, when the invisible becomes tangible. It is the stage where the initiate no longer fears time, for they have learned to work with it as co-creator. Their every action becomes ritual, their every word structure. The world no longer feels like a burden, but a sacred project of the divine. This is Capricorn's alchemy, the transformation of survival into mastery of ambition, into purpose, of time into eternity. The mountain is no longer something to climb, but something to become. Every cycle of light must pass through darkness, and Capricorn's journey reaches its deepest mystery in the gate of winter, the sacred stillness between death and rebirth. The ancients placed Capricorn at the heart of the winter solstice, when the sun stands still in the longest night. To them, this was not a season of despair, but initiation, the moment when the light is reborn from within the womb of silence. Capricorn, as the guardian of this gate, teaches that true illumination begins only when all outer fires have gone out. Winter strips the world bare. Trees stand as bones against the gray sky. The earth sleeps beneath layers of frost, and time itself feels suspended. Yet within that apparent stillness, an invisible miracle unfolds. The sun symbol of the soul begins its slow return. This is the essence of Capricorn, the soul's endurance through the longest night sustained by faith that dawn will come again. It is the trust that something eternal burns, even when all visible light has vanished. Spiritually, this is the point where the initiate faces the void. All achievements, identities, and ambitions are gone. The outer mountain has been climbed, and now the only way forward is inward. The silence of Saturn becomes absolute. No voices, no signs, only stillness. It is here that the Capricorn soul meets its final test. Can you remain faithful when nothing remains? In the mystery schools, this stage was called the night of the soul. Those who reached it learned that wisdom is not found in abundance, but in emptiness. The darkness does not destroy the light. It teaches you to generate it from within. This is the transformation of power into presence. The Master no longer seeks control over reality, but alignment with the unseen rhythm behind it. The Winter Gate also carries a cosmic message. Capricorn marks the rebirth of the solar consciousness, the awakening of light through matter. Just as the sun begins to rise again, the soul too discovers a new kind of radiance, one that no circumstance can extinguish. The Capricorn initiate becomes the keeper of this inner flame, small, steady, eternal. Psychologically, this phase mirrors the human experience of isolation, loss, or deep transformation. When life seems stripped of meaning, when every structure dissolves, that is when Capricorn's wisdom ignites. It whispers that endings are not punishments, but passages. Death is not destruction, but evolution. The winter of the soul is the womb of awakening. In the stillness of this gate, Capricorn realizes the truth it has sought all along. Light was never something to climb toward. It was something to uncover. The summit and the seed are one, both born in the darkness that births creation itself. And when the first dawn returns, it is not the same sun, nor the same soul. Both have been reborn through time. Capricorn's story does not unfold in one lifetime. It is a pattern that echoes through many. It is the archetype of the old soul, one who has returned to earth again and again to refine the art of mastery. While other signs may dance through cycles of passion, discovery, and expression, Capricorn's evolution is forged in endurance. Across incarnations, it learns the sacred mechanics of creation, how to build, sustain, and embody divine law through matter. In its earliest lifetimes, the Capricorn soul often begins as the laborer, the builder, the one who learns the value of work. It experiences limitation and struggle, not as punishment, but as the first lessons in structure. These souls are drawn to responsibility, instinctively shaping their environments with patience and persistence. The mountain begins low, but the climb is inevitable. Every effort, every repetition is a laying of stone upon stone for future foundations. As the lifetimes progress, Capricorn's lessons deepen. The soul ascends into roles of authority: rulers, priests, scientists, architects, teachers, those who shape not just structures, but systems of thought. Here, the test shifts from endurance to integrity. With power comes the temptation of pride, and many Capricorn souls must face the karma of control, the misuse of their wisdom to dominate rather than uplift. These are the ages of empire, the golden towers that rise and fall, each collapse, refining the humility of the builder. Eventually, after centuries of trial and error, a quiet transformation begins. The Capricorn soul no longer seeks to rule, but to guide. The external authority dissolves into inner sovereignty. The master becomes the mentor, the elder the sage. This is the stage of wisdom beyond ambition, where the soul remembers that the true legacy is not what it leaves behind, but what it awakens within. The karmic cycle of responsibility gives way to stewardship. The need to achieve is replaced by the desire to serve. In this final arc of evolution, the Capricorn soul understands that mastery is not earned, it is remembered. Every lifetime of structure, discipline, and duty was merely preparation for this realization that the soul itself is the architecture of divine intelligence. The mountain was never out there. It was always the self sculpting itself toward perfection. This is why Capricorn often incarnates into challenging lives, born into circumstances demanding strength, patience, and self-reliance. They are not being tested by the universe. They are the universe testing itself, ensuring its own structures are sound. Each lifetime, each challenge is a brick in the cathedral of consciousness they are constructing across eternity. By the time the soul reaches its higher octave, the climb ends not in exhaustion, but in grace. The mountain dissolves into light, and Capricorn stands as the eternal keeper of form, the one who holds heaven steady so that others may ascend. The journey never truly ends, for the Master does not retire. They simply become the ground upon which new mountains rise. When the climb is complete and the outer mountains fade into mist, Capricorn finally stands before the true summit, not a peak in the sky, but a still point within the soul. Here, the long apprenticeship under Saturn ends. The builder, the ruler, the sage all dissolve into silence. What remains is the pure presence of the inner master, the one who no longer seeks to control, achieve, or prove, but simply is. The journey that began with effort ends in being. This final return is not triumphal, it is humble. The inner master does not stand above others, but within them. After lifetimes of building structures outside the self, Capricorn realizes that the true temple was consciousness itself, and it was being constructed with every choice, every act of endurance, every moment of truth lived in time. The soul becomes its own sanctuary. The lessons of Saturn, once so heavy, now crystallize into wisdom so clear it feels like light solidified. The old Capricorn believed mastery meant authority to lead, to guide, to govern. But the awakened Capricorn understands that mastery is participation with the divine order. It is the art of harmonizing with creation rather than shaping it by force. The inner master no longer climbs toward heaven. It channels heaven into earth. It becomes the bridge through which the eternal expresses itself in form. This return is also a reconciliation, the merging of Capricorn's dual nature. The goat and the fish are no longer divided. The higher and lower, the material and spiritual, the effort and surrender, all dissolve into unity. The same energy that once labored to build the mountain now flows effortlessly as the river descending from it. The master does not hold the structure together. The structure holds itself through them. This is the mystery of divine alignment, to build without strain, to create without attachment, to act without ego. Psychologically, this marks a profound awakening. The constant striving for external validation vanishes. Success and failure lose meaning. The Capricorn soul feels no urgency to prove itself, for it has become the proof, living evidence that time's discipline leads to eternity's peace. In the stillness of mastery, even Saturn smiles, for his greatest student has become his reflection. The world may still see Capricorn as the mountain climber, the achiever, the stoic, but those who have reached this inner peak know the truth. The climb was never about reaching the top, but about becoming the mountain itself. The one who endures becomes the ground upon which others rise. The one who masters time becomes timeless. In this final return, Capricorn becomes what it was always destined to be, the eternal architect of balance, where heaven finds its foundation in human form. The inner master does not retire into isolation. It radiates quiet authority through presence alone. The work continues, but now it is effortless, for the builder and the divine are one, and thus the mountain breathes. And so we return